Part 94. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 931. Chapter 931 Not Mom. 3. What Wang Yuan did can be said to be the source of Qian Yuman's tragedy in the next 5 years. After Qian Yuman knew the truth, she wanted to take Wang Yuan out and beat her. When she had almost forgotten this person, Wang Yuan actually appeared in front of her. Chao Xiaofeng didn't realize what was happening at first. When she heard Qian Yuman calling Wang Yuan, Chao Xiaofeng, who knew her friend's experience over the years, rushed over quickly and hit Wang Yuan with a heavy menu. Wang Yuan was having dinner with her son's girlfriend. Before she could enter the restaurant, someone rushed out and beat her up. She resisted quickly, not realizing why she was being beaten, and resisted instinctively. Zhang Chuiyun, who had just come out of the toilet, heard the noise in the restaurant and looked over curiously. She saw her idol, teacher Qian, and a young and lovely woman beating a woman with a menu. She opened her little mouth slightly and stared at the beaten middle-aged woman. She suddenly screamed and rushed over quickly. Teacher Qian, please stop, don't fight anymore. Zhang Chuiyun's pink and cute little face was full of fear, and her eyes were anxious to interrupt the fight and stop them from continuing to beat people. Qian Yuman heard someone calling her with keen ears, and saw a panicked Zhang Chuiyun. She also stopped beating people with her hands. Chao Xiaofeng was still beating desperately, but Zhang Chuiyun rushed over, hugged her and was beaten. Middle-aged woman. Qian Yuman and Chao Xiaofeng both stopped beating, especially Qian Yuman, who showed a surprised expression and looked at Zhang Chuiyun, who had been beaten twice. Xiao Yun, what are you doing? Do you know this bitch? Qian Yuman pointed at Wang Yuan, who was hiding behind Zhang Chuiyun in fear. Yes, teacher Qian, I don't know what the problem is between you. Can you please look at my face and stop hitting auntie? Zhang Chuiyun's cute little face wrinkled up, and she turned around and took out wiping the embarrassment on Wang Yuan's body with a handkerchief. Wang Yuan looked at Qian Yuman with horror on her face. She had not recovered from the violence just now. Everything happened too suddenly. Qian Yuman was very angry, but she did not lose her mind. She calmed down under the student's appeal and looked at Wang Yuan eagerly. Xiaoyun, how did you meet her? Qian Yuman asked again. Seeing Zhang Chuiyun patiently wiping Wang Yuan's face, the relationship between the two was not bad. Teacher Qian, she is Nianyan's mother. Zhang Chuiyun's answer made Qian Yuman open her mouth in surprise and point at Wang Yuan in disbelief. This is Wang Xinian's mother. This woman who destroyed her family is actually the mother of Wang Xinian, the elegant and popular contemporary idol star? Is the world so small? How could a woman like Wang Yuan give birth to such an outstanding son as Wang Xinian? Genetic mutation? Wang Yuan slowly calmed down, and with Zhang Chuiyun's explanation, she finally understood that the person in front of her was her son's former teacher, but she was still confused as to how she could have offended Qian Yuman. Teacher Qian, why did you hit auntie? You kept calling her a bitch. Did you recognize the wrong person? Zhang Chuiyun opened her mouth and asked about the cause and effect. Just now she asked her auntie, but she didn't get the reason. Qian Yuman's cold gaze fell on Wang Yuan and sneered. Wrong person? How could I admit the wrong person? Even if she turns into ashes, I will never admit the wrong person. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 932. Chapter 932 Not Mom. 4. Qian Yuman said Wang Yuan's name and was sure that she had not recognized the wrong person and had a deep resentment towards her. Especially when Wang Yuan faced Qian Yuman, she looked confused. She had been frightened by Qian Yuman just now, but now that she had calmed down, all she had was anger. You have gone too far. A gentleman talks but never takes action. Wang Yuan's face turned pale and she had not yet fully recovered from what had just happened. I'm not a gentleman to begin with, but for Xiao Yun's sake, I can't wait to rush over and beat you a few more times. My mother's name is Qian Xian'er, you know why I beat you. And my name used to be Qi Man Man, do you still remember? Qian Yuman mocked, pointing to her face. Although she was only 16 when she had the dispute with Wang Yuan, the outline and appearance of her face had not changed much. Qian Xian'er. Qi Manman. Wang Yuan tried hard to recall in her mind whether she knew such a person. Looking at Qian Yuman's face, she still felt familiar, but she couldn't remember it for a while. Where have you seen it? Seeing Qian Xian'er's confused look, Qian Yuman became even more angry and almost couldn't help but rush over and beat her up. Sure enough, people have done so many bad things that they can't remember how many families they have torn apart. Qian Yuman rolled up her sleeves and was ready to rush forward for another fight at any time. Wang Yuan was so frightened that she hid behind Zhang Chuiyun and did not dare to come out. Qian Yuman has told so much information, but Wang Yuan still looks confused. Qian Yuman doesn't mind angrily accusing Wang Yuan of what she did in the past in front of everyone. Qian Yuman described in the simplest terms how Wang Yuan pretended to be pregnant and went to Qi's house to ask Qi's father to take responsibility. Later, she even pretended to be aborted by Qi Manman, which made Qian Yuman angry and annoyed. Her mother left the Qi family together, resulting in his father and daughter not talking to each other for many years, and causing her parents to divorce, making her a divorced child. After hearing what Qian Yuman said, Zhang Chuiyun's expression was in disbelief, and her eyes when looking at Wang Yuan also changed a bit. After Qian Yuman's words, the memories that had been sealed for many years were opened like water. Naturally, she recalled every bit of the past. Faced with the looks in their eyes, she felt guilty in her heart. She always knew that the Qi family was looking for her, so she had been hiding for so many years. Unexpectedly, she was still found, and she was her son's former English teacher, which made her feel even more ashamed. Manman, I know I did a lot of wrong things when I was young. I don't ask you to forgive me. I just solemnly apologize to you and your family here. Wang Yuan's attitude at the moment was extremely sincere. She was beaten inexplicably and looked embarrassed. The anger also dissipated because he knew the reason. At this moment, she was sincerely repenting for what she had done back then. Qian Yuman didn't expect Wang Yuan's apology to be so sincere. She was so full of humiliation and abuse that she choked in her throat and couldn't even spit it out. Qian Yuman frowned. Frankly speaking, she would rather Wang Yuan was a bitch, so she would not take care of Wang Xinian and Zhang Chuiyun and deal with Wang Yuan properly. Huh, do you think that's all for an apology? Do you know that my mother has been missing and can't be found? Qian Yuman is a person who holds grudges and cannot forgive others with just one word. To Wang Yuan has been resentful for a long time. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 933. Chapter 933. Not Mom. 5. Qian Yuman is a person who holds grudges and cannot forgive others with just one word. She has been resentful of Wang Yuan for a long time. He didn't rush over to beat anyone immediately because he took Zhang Chuiyun into consideration. Finally found the person, but can't do anything. Feeling aggrieved, she now needed to relieve her hatred and teach Wang Yuan a lesson. Wang Yuan's constant apologies came out of her mouth. Qian Yuman's expression was disdainful. When she said her apology, there were always countless similar words in her heart. Manman, I know that your family has suffered because of me. Your mother has been missing for many years and I feel, isn't that your mother? Wang Yuan suddenly screamed, with an unbelievable expression on her face. Wang Yuan's words made all of them look in the direction Wang Yuan pointed. As expected, a noble woman who looked roughly the same as Qian Yuman slowly walked past them. That familiar face was chatting and laughing with a tall and handsome man next to her. They didn't notice at all that there were 4 people staring at them in shock, and they slowly walked past them. The moment Jian saw the person who looked very similar to her mother, she really thought it was her mother. Later, when she calmed down, her mind immediately thought of another person, a woman who looked very similar to her mother. Also, how could it be said that Cao is here? In the vast London, there is another person she often meets. Before, she was looking for someone to investigate where this person who looked very similar to her mother lived. Unexpectedly, she didn't find the person and he appeared in front of her. Wang Yuan walked up to the woman with a guilty look on her face, bowed her head and apologized with a guilty look on her face. Qian Xian'er, I'm really sorry for you. I feel ashamed that I caused harm to you and your family 8 years ago. Please forgive me for my mistakes back then. The woman named Ning'er looked confused, then asked with a faint smile. Madam, have you mistakenly recognized the person? Mrs. Ning'er smiled gently and looked back helplessly at the tall and handsome man beside her. Qian Yuman also rushed over like a fly. She was a little excited and wanted to go forward and hug the woman, but when she thought that the person in front of her was probably not her mother, she calmed down because she was afraid of scaring her. You. Qian Yuman was nervous and said nothing. On the contrary, Ning'er saw Qian Yuman clearly and immediately recognized her as the beautiful woman who cried and hugged her and called her mother a few days ago. She immediately guessed what happened to her. Chao Xiaofeng was no longer calm at this time, and also rushed towards him. Without Qian Yuman's worries, he cheered enthusiastically. "Aunt Xian'er, it's really you. Ha ha ha. I thought I was wrong." Qian Yuman and Chao Xiaofeng met when they were in college. They had a very good relationship when they were in college. Naturally, they had been in contact with Qian Xian'er many times. Sometimes they were as close as mother and daughter. Seeing that they were with Qian Xian'er, Ning'er, who looked very much like Xian'er, was naturally very enthusiastic and had completely forgotten that Qian Yuman had mentioned to her that she had met a woman who looked very similar to her mother on the street in London. Ning'er, who was jumping and laughing while being held by Chao Xiaofeng, looked helpless. Looking at Qian Yuman's eyes eager to hold her and Wang Yuan's guilty expression, her mind became even more confused. Does she really look like the Qian Xian'er they say? It seems that I really look like that Qian Xian'er, Ning'er said with a smile, not feeling offended. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 934. Chapter 934 Not Mom. 6. Chao Xiaofeng, who was holding her in his arms, immediately understood what was going on after hearing Ning'er's words, and immediately let her go, with a very embarrassed expression on his face. Sorry, Chao Xiaofeng let go of Ning'er and turned to Qian Yuman and winked. "Manman, this lady looks so much like your mother, it's like seeing a ghost. Could it be that she is also a twin gene in your family? If so, Chao Xiaofeng would have to bow down to their family, because I heard that Grandma Qian Yuman was the same, and if her mother was the same, they would be twins of the 4th generation. With this powerful gene, she must reserve Manman's next generation, and she also wants twin granddaughters." Qian Yuman took a deep breath, took a step forward, and held Mrs. Ning'er's hand. "My mother has no sisters. She is the only child in the family, so she cannot be twins. You are my mother. I will not admit it wrong. I don't know why my mother disowns me, but I will not let her go so easily. Hand. You stupid kid. Why did you call me mom again? I'm really not your mom." Mrs. Ning'er felt helpless for a while, but looking at the expressions of other people present, she obviously thought she was pretending to be stupid. There is a sense of helplessness in my heart. Regarding Ning'er's words, it was clear on the faces of several people in front of them that they didn't believe what she said at all. "Mom, Dad is already here, let's go there quickly," At this moment, the man next to Mrs. Ninger spoke, and everyone's attention focused on him. At this time, there was a handsome man, 1.9 meters tall, wearing a handsome white suit, with deep facial features and noble temperament, just like the Prince Charming from the TV series. Such an outstanding man was the center of attention wherever he went, but he was completely ignored by this group of women. Unless he spoke, they would not even look at him. What instantly appeared in Qian Yuman's mind was a handsome young man who must be very playful. Then he realized what he had just said and was stunned for a moment. "You go over first." "I'll go over later," Ninger said to her son with a smile. The man glanced at Qian Yuman and others, smiled politely at them, nodded and left. "Manman, he. Chow Xiaofeng grabbed Qian Yuman's clothes and hesitated to explain. She was obviously frightened. Chow Xiaofeng was not the only one who was frightened. Qian Yuman was also frightened. The man who looked like Prince Charming just now actually called a woman who looked exactly like her mother mom. How could it be like this? Just by looking at that man, one can clearly see that the man's facial features bear a 45 resemblance to Ninger, and he is exactly the same as his biological son. The man looked about the same age as Qian Yuman, and his appearance was somewhat similar, because they both looked like Ninger. Qian Yuman had previously believed that Ninger was her mother, but for some unknown reason, she didn't remember or refused to identify herself. After hearing the man call Ninger's mother, she was completely stunned. Why is this happening? Guys, maybe I look like the Qian Siener you call me, but I'm really not her. I'm sorry, I have to go find my son and the others. Ninger smiled and nodded with them and left. Looking at Ninger's leaving figure, Qian Yuman still hadn't come back to her senses. Instead, Chow Xiaofeng beside her kept thinking casually. It's so similar. This lady really looks like Aunt Siener. She's almost carved out of the same mold. But the handsome guy just now also looks like Aunt Siener. How could Aunt Siener have a son as old as Manman? So we are really sure that we got the wrong person this time. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 935. Chapter 935 Not Mom. 7. It's so similar. This lady really looks like Aunt Siener. She's almost carved out of the same mold. But the handsome guy just now also looks like Aunt Siener. How could Aunt Siener have a son as old as Manman? So we are really sure that we got the wrong person this time. Qian Yuman frowned and followed her forward. She wanted to see who the husband of Mrs. Ninger was. "Hey, Manman, wait for me!" Chow Xiaofeng immediately chased after him. Qian Yuman's steps stopped only 3 meters away from Mrs. Ninger and the others. Her beautiful peach blossom eyes nearly popped out as she stared blankly at the woman named Ninger and her family. As Ninger approached, a handsome middle-aged man stood up, hugged Ninger's waist and kissed her cheek to cheek. Prince Charming smiled and greeted the middle-aged man. The three of them sat down and ordered food while chatting and laughing. Their harmonious interactions told Qian Yuman that they were a family. That middle-aged man is very similar to Prince Charming. He is the product of Ninger and the middle-aged man. They are a family. Oh my god, that handsome guy looks just like any middle-aged handsome guy. Chow Xiaofeng couldn't help but sigh. Qian Yuman's eyes dimmed instantly, and countless previous guesses became pale and feeble at this moment. She turned around and left in a daze, not wanting to continue seeing the three of them happily together. She was still sad because she had recognized the wrong person. Not a mother, really not a mother. This time she recognized the wrong person. How could her mother have a son about the same age as herself? Not to mention a loving husband. It's not a case of amnesia, nor is it a deliberate act of not knowing each other, it's really not the same person. Whoa, so sad, so sad. Chow Xiaofeng looked at her friend, then at the happy family of three over there, and finally decided not to chase her friend, but to run towards the family of 3 over there. Sorry to bother you. Chow Xiaofeng ran to their side. Mrs. Ning looked at Chow Xiaofeng doubtfully. What's wrong? Chow Xiaofeng took a deep breath. I want to ask you a few questions. I shouldn't delay your meal, right? Gentle Ning smiled and nodded. Go ahead. What is your name? Li Ning. Have you only given birth to one son? Chow Xiaofeng's question made Ning's husband frown slightly and feel a little unhappy. Without waiting for Li Ning to answer first, Li Ning's son said with a smile. Yes. My mother gave birth to a son, otherwise would there be that beautiful woman just now? Then Prince Charming smiled heartily, and Li Ning also laughed with him. But mom, that beautiful woman just now looks really like you, more like your child than me. The world is big, and there are many people who look like Ning. Li Ning's husband spoke, but the expression on his face was not as cordial as that of Li Ning and her son. He was a little serious, a little impatient, and obviously unhappy. Chow Xiaofeng came to disturb them. Can you leave me your contact information? Chow Xiaofeng ignored Li Ning's husband's impatience and asked shamelessly. Of course, he also asked the name of Prince Charming. There is no other way. As a member of the Senior Appearance Association, when you see a handsome guy, you will naturally want to establish a relationship. Li Ning's husband obviously didn't want Li Ning to leave her contact information, but after Li Ning smiled and said it was okay, she exchanged her contact information with Chow Xiaofeng. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 936. Chapter 936. Not Mom. 8. Li Ning's husband obviously didn't want Li Ning to leave her contact information, but after Li Ning smiled and said it was okay, she exchanged her contact information with Chow Xiaofeng. Finally getting Li Ning's contact information, Chow Xiaofeng immediately looked for Qian Yuman, but Qian Yuman's people had disappeared long ago, and no one answered her call. Only later did she find out that her phone was still on the dining table. Yes, it wasn't taken away at all. Unable to contact Qian Yuman for a while, Chow Xiaofeng had to run to the door of her hotel to wait. Qian Yuman herself did not return to the hotel at all. She was really upset, thinking that after meeting her mother, even if her mother ignored her on purpose or for some other reason, it would not be a problem. She could slowly resolve the matter. Lose. When she realized that she was not her mother, she felt very melancholy. I feel like a little tadpole, always looking for my mother, always recognizing the wrong person. After searching for so long, I still can't find my mother. How can I keep her from being sad? Qian Yuman has been very free these past 2 days. After much thought, she decided to do something. The only thing that can relieve Qian Yuman's depressed mood is drinking. It has been more than a month since she came to London, and she has not been to a well-known bar here. The bar is a bar with a well-decorated atmosphere and a full range of drinks. It is very famous in London. When Qian Yuman was studying, she thought of visiting this bar. It's just that the consumption here is a bit high. At that time, I didn't have the money to come here. Let alone drink, I couldn't bear to pay for a glass of water. It was rare to come to London and she was in a bad mood, so Qian Yuman naturally chose to enjoy a good meal. The most important thing is that there are many handsome guys hanging out in the bar called Moonlight. Even if she doesn't go to drink, but just to see the handsome guys, it's still very cost-effective. Now only good wine and handsome men can save her depressed mood. Qian Yuman came to the bar and ordered a bottle of red wine. She sat at the bar instead of choosing a booth to drink. Qian Yuman now has a lot of money on hand. Ever since Qian Yuman's divorce, Qi's father has been giving her 500,000 as pocket money every month. Plus the money she earned during this period, she also has a lot of money. Of savings. Ordered a bottle of Chateau Cheval Blanc from a good vintage. The bright and charming Jianyuman sat at the bar and drank alone. Since it was still very early and the bar had just opened, there were not many people drinking and no one came up to chat with her. As Jianyuman drank glass after glass of red wine, her eyes kept staring at the entrance of the bar. It was getting darker and darker, and more people were coming in. There were 2 or 3 handsome guys, one with her. No one has the appetite. Originally, I wanted to focus on looking at the handsome guys. After a bottle of red wine, I didn't meet any of them. Jianyuman said in her heart that she was not disappointed, but she was lying. As Jianyuman drank the second bottle of red wine, Jianyuman felt a little dizzy. She leaned her head and thought wildly, and her thoughts had long gone to the sky. Boring. After drinking the last glass of red wine and being chatted up by countless men, Jianyuman decided to go back to the hotel by hand. She was deeply disappointed with this bar called Moonlight, because she saw that there were a few handsome guys, but none of them suited her taste, and the number was not as high as the rumors on the internet. It was already almost 10 o'clock, and there were many people in the bar. More and more people are chatting with her. At first I could still drink cleanly, but later I couldn't do it anymore, but I felt much better. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 937. Chapter 937 Drunk Chatting with Men 1. At this time, a woman sat down next to Jianyuman. She asked for a bottle of Jianyuman at the bar. Her eyes lit up when she heard it. It was Hennessy's Century Beauty Cognac. A bottle costs 180,000 euros. Brandy. Jianyuman also saw it just now, but was reluctant to drink it. This bottle would require her to work for several years before she could afford it. With a brandy worth more than 1 million RMB, who is so rich? Jianyuman looked over curiously, and saw a familiar face, and he was smiling at her. Little fairy, are you interested in having a drink? Okay. Jianyuman nodded hesitantly, but she complained to herself 100 times in her heart. Her answer was actually faster than her own head. In fact, her idea was to reject it. After all, she didn't like the person in front of her very much. Because this person likes Tangyuj, one of her love rivals. Every time she sees the scene of her and Tangyuj getting along happily, she can drink a tank of jealousy. No matter how much I complained in my heart, I still sat down and drank obediently. The bartender had already brought a glass specially designed for drinking brandy. Because the bottle of Hennessy's Century Beauty Cognac I was drinking was one of their treasures, so it was specially equipped for it. The cup, even the cup shows its luxury. Looking at the bottle of beauty of the century poured into the cup, Jianyuman happily took a sip. Its unique aroma quickly stimulated her buds, and the unhappiness of the whole day dissipated. She didn't expect that this bottle of beauty of the world could bring such a big shock to people. If she had known it was so delicious, she would have just spent her money on a drink. In her mind, she unconsciously thought of Tangyuj, as if there was a century-old beauty in the wine cellar, but it was locked up by Tangyuj. He said he was afraid that some of his friends would secretly drink it, so he locked it up and threw away the key. As a result, she failed to drink it. She didn't insist on drinking it at first because there were other more attractive wines, so she didn't insist on drinking it. Now after tasting it herself, she had already considered stealing the bottle of wine. Why do you want to invite me to drink today? Jianyuman is not stupid. He would not go to the Three Treasures Palace for nothing. Enlil, who invited her to drink, cannot treat himself to a drink in a good way. There must be a purpose. What else can I do? I just want to treat you to a drink. Enlil smiled heartily, without directly stating the purpose of his visit today. Really? Then I'm not welcome. Jianyuman started to drink a second cup. She didn't take the initiative to say it, and she would not take the initiative to mention it again. Enyel, who also had a good drinker, happily drank with Jianyuman. After drinking for a while, the two discovered that not only did they share a common interest in wine, but they also had one thing in common, which was the desire to drink. Massive. You came and me, and accidentally drank 3 bottles of white orchids, 2 bottles of red wine, and 1,000 cup of people who did not fall. They were all drunk. In addition to the 2 bottles of red wine he drank just now, this is the most Jianyuman has drunk in so many years. 2 women who were not very good friends at first started talking and laughing for no reason, and began to treat each other as sisters. It is said that the friendship between women is very strange. The 2 of them had discussed issues such as cosmetics and bags before, but they were definitely not close friends. In Jianyuman's heart, she still had some concerns about Enyel liking Tangyuj. Grievance. Unexpectedly, the way 2 women established friendship was through drinking. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 938. Chapter 938 Drunk Chatting with Men Too. It is said that the friendship between women is very strange. The 2 of them had discussed issues such as cosmetics and bags before, but they were definitely not close friends. In Jianyuman's heart, she still had some concerns about Enyel liking Tangyuj. Grievance. Unexpectedly, the way 2 women established friendship was through drinking. It was also the first time for each other to meet such a drinkable female friend, and they formed a good friendship at the wine table. At this moment, on the streets of London, 2 women who were drunk and shaking their heads were walking side by side, attracting the attention of passers-by. The appearance of Jianyuman and Enyel is so eye-catching, everyone will look at. Some of them couldn't help but worry that the 2 drunk women would be taken advantage of by people with evil intentions. However, the 2 drunk women had no idea of this at all and kept chatting while walking. Both of them drank a lot and started chatting about something they had not discussed before. When they were drinking before, they talked a lot about their thoughts on wine, as well as each other's family situations, and the topic accidentally turned to Tangyuj. Little fairy, you don't know, I have liked Yuj for 2 years, but he doesn't like me at all, he just treats me as a friend, woo woo woo, this is the first time that I, Enyel, like a man so much. Enyel Lee's cheeks were red and her eyes became confused. It was the first time she talked about her emotions with such a pessimistic attitude. Before, Xiaoqiang, who was enthusiastic and could not die, did anyone know that Misanda, the pain in her heart? Ha ha ha, we are both from the end of the world. Jianyuman, who was already drunk, put her hand on Enyel's shoulder, smiled and patted her shoulder, with pain on her face. Why is she not the same? After loving Tangyuj for 3 years, this was the first time she liked a man so much. Why didn't he like her? Looking at it this way, both women are sad for one man. TCH, how can we be the same fallen people from the end of the world? You exist in Yuj's heart, so I don't exist. Enyel pouted dissatisfied and protested towards Jianyuman. Are you thinking too much? He doesn't have me in his heart at all. If he had me, I wouldn't divorce him. Hey, how do you say this? Enyel looked at her in confusion, holding his face and looking at Jianyuman. There were several Jianyuman dangling in front of him. What else can I say? I'm just like you. The courtship failed. I was already his wife back then, so it's not like I didn't get his love. Jianyuman smiled sadly, and her mind started to get a little confused. What on earth was she doing? You can't control what you say, but the painful instinct is still in your blood, and you can still complain for a long time even if you are drunk. You lied. Enyel shook his head vigorously. Who didn't know that Yuzha had deep feelings for his ex-wife, you, and it was obviously you who abandoned him. Go away, who are you listening to? That Tangyuj. Fortunately for him, he can speak out. It seems that the rumors in the world have turned me into an image of an infatuated man who abandoned him even though Tianyuman was drunk. She still had thinking rationally. After hearing Anil's words, he covered his heart in discomfort. My heart is so broken that I can't bear to leave. Hearing Tianyuman's words, Anil sobered up a little from his drunkenness. He leaned close to his head and held Tianyuman's head. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 939. Chapter 939 Drunk Chatting with Men 3. Hearing Tianyuman's words, Anil sobered up a little from his drunkenness. He leaned close to his head and held Tianyuman's head. Ah! It turns out that you are really a fallen person like me. It seems that Tanyuj cannot taste this poison easily. Tianyuman nodded solemnly, and the sisters hugged Anil's shoulders nicely. They were obviously very sad, but they couldn't cry a single tear. During the confinement period, I had cried all the tears for Tanyuj in my life. Hey! You don't know, Lisa came to me today and wanted to join forces with me to harm you. That not only looks stinky, but also has beautiful thoughts. Is this the kind of person I am? Lisa, that ugly woman, she's so ugly, I think she looks hideous now just thinking about it, ha ha ha. Hey. Miss Tianyuman, you are paying attention to the wrong place. Isn't it supposed to be the place where Lisa wants to harm you? But the thoughts of these two people were a little erratic and intoxicating, and the content of their chat was very erratic. They had already shifted to cursing and scolding Lisa together. The two happily chatted about whether Lisa's were fake. Later, Anil said that she and Lisa couldn't help but get into a fight and took the opportunity to pinch her breasts, and they concluded that they were real. Tianyuman was very envious when she heard this. She had wanted to squeeze her F-cup for a long time. It seemed that next time she could use everyone's name to squeeze them twice. Little fairy, are you pitiful when you say we can't get Yuj's love? You are pitiful, but I am not pitiful, because I slept with him. Tianyuman laughed proudly. Ah, tell me how you feel, how is Yuj's skills in bed? That's a first-class performance. It takes more than half an hour each time, and there are many postures at one time. I'm so happy. Haha, how long is that? Anil didn't need to go into too much detail about what the thing was. Tianyuman, as a veteran, told Anil the size in a very dishonest manner. 18. If Tanyuj was present at this moment, he would definitely want to stop Tianyuman's mouth. How could she reveal the details of their bed to a third party? Two unscrupulous women were chatting about some aspect of Tanyuj's affairs on the streets of London. Just imagine how beautiful the scene was. Fortunately, their chatter was quiet, otherwise they would attract people's attention. After all, there are not many people who talk about this kind of thing on the street without being shy, and there are naturally fewer beauties of their level. Tanyuj, somewhere far away, was being pulled out by Lisa. He kept crying to her, which made him irritable. Tanyuj was not only irritable. He had made an appointment with Lisa's father today to talk about a cooperation case, but no one showed up, but Lisa did come. After Lisa came, she kept crying, and she kept crying. She didn't know what she was crying for. He wanted to leave immediately, but Lisa pulled him and refused to let him go. She insisted on listening to her talk about the tragic experiences that had happened recently, and even asked Tanyuj to help him. Tanyuj smiled and nodded, but felt happy in his heart. He didn't need to investigate to know what happened to Lisa during this period. There was no doubt that it was Tianyuman who did it. From Dong Fangxiang's side, and after the banquet, it was natural to think that it was her. Only her methods of revenge are so childish. Miss Lisa, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 940. Chapter 940 Poisoning Tanyuj 1. Miss Lisa, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first. Listening to Lisa has been complaining a lot of time. Tanyuj wanted to run away. He didn't have to listen to a woman to complain. He couldn't help but complain to Murangya again about all the things he had arranged for him. Originally, these things belonged to Murangya. Since he came to London on Murangya's behalf, all his matters have been thrown onto him. Yuj, I'm really sad. How could Lisa let Tanyuj go? She had a purpose today, knowing that her father and Tanyuj had an appointment to discuss business today. First, she deliberately prevented her father from attending the appointment, and then came in his place. She also had to continue with her other plans. She had long seen that Tanyuj wanted to leave, but the plan hadn't even started yet. How could she let Tanyuj leave? Miss Lisa, it's getting late. I've been with you for more than 20 minutes. You also know that as the president of Emgrand Group, I'm very tired during this period. I'm afraid I really don't have time to accompany you, Tanyuj repeated. He said, his body also stood up, his intention to leave was obvious. Lisa couldn't scream in her heart. From the corner of her eye, she saw a waiter walking over and bowing to them first. Sir, madam, this is a free couples fruit wine specially provided by our store for the couples who come to dine tonight. Please enjoy it slowly. The waiter placed the wine glasses in front of Tanyuj and Lisa respectively. The wine in the glasses was very beautiful, with brilliant colors, and the portion was not much, only a small cup. Lisa was very happy. The waiter who specially paid for it finally brought the cup of fruit wine with some spices. Just now she had been thinking in her mind why it hadn't been brought yet, which made her very anxious, and it was not easy to see Tanyuj in front of her. Urging the waiter to serve the noodles. Yuj, don't leave in a hurry. Look, this store gave us 2 glasses of wine. It would be a waste if we don't drink. We can go back after finishing this glass. Tanyuj's eyes fell on the wine brought by the waiter. No more drinking, I'm driving today, let's say goodbye. Don't go, Yuj, I finally managed to have dinner with you alone, so please stay with me. Lisa stood up and pulled Tanyuj's sleeve, refusing to let him leave. Tanyuj's patience has reached its limit. He just listened to her crying for so long, and he still won't let her go now. Just stay with me for a while. I really have to leave. Tanyuj had already stood up, buttoned his suit and was about to leave. Lisa panicked. She must not let him leave like this, otherwise today's purpose would be ruined, and she didn't know when she would have such an opportunity next time. Yuj, why don't you drink this glass of wine? You also know that I have always liked you, and I also know that you don't like me. It's rare for people to misunderstand that we are lovers, and even if you give me this glass of wine, just treat it as such. Fulfill my wish and drink this couple's fruit wine with me. Lisa looked at Tanyuj pitifully. Although her face was slightly stiff due to plastic surgery, she was still somewhat pretty, and for many men she was still a bust. Beauty. It's a pity that our boss, Mr. Tang, likes the original ones and doesn't like the products of acquired plastic surgery. Tanyuj naturally refused Lisa's request, but Lisa refused and just begged him. Just a drink, then we can part ways. Just a drink, it will satisfy my little wish. Lisa nodded with a bright smile. End of this chapter.